Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to Talos of Tech live on Twitch, and we've got some AirPods rumors raining down from above. Way too many AirPods coming out. I don't even know where to begin. There's too much happening in one year, and I would also like to sprinkle all of these rumors with a healthy amount of skepticism because there is a decent number of AirPods rumors we got early last year that never really formulated into anything either. So these could be that in the form of delays or that in the form of I don't know what they could be doing, but either way, something's got to be off. I don't know if every single rumor I've heard about AirPods is going to end up happening. I would say 50% of them are probably going to end up not happening, and we're just hearing about internal stuff. But either way, the biggest one that is probably most recent and in our faces, which comes from John Prosser, who accurately predicted the launch of the iPhone SE. So I think, especially when it comes to recent launches, there's definite cause to believe him. But he's suggesting that there are new AirPods dropping next month before WWDC takes place. Um, and they're not AirPods Pro, they're not the over ears, and I'm guessing they're not AirPods X, the sporty branded ones, either. So they're basically what the only thing left that they can be is like Generation 3 AirPods. So we got Generation 2 AirPods in March of 2019. We're getting a follow up to the standard regular AirPods. The ones that don't have the rubber tips, the ones that have the universal fit with no customization. Uh, what do they do to these things? This is my biggest question. Because we haven't really talked much about this. Leaks aside, whether or not they're coming out, irrelevant. What do they do with these next gen ones? I can't seem to get a universal agreement on this because a lot of you guys say, I saw several people suggest that, well, they're just the AirPods Pro design, but without the ANC, which in my opinion is kind of pointless because the whole idea of not making these and making the rubber seal instead is that those rubber seals allowed you to have better noise cancellation, which allowed for active noise cancellation. So honestly, taking out the ANC from AirPods Pro, I don't think would just objectively make them cheaper. There may be a software part of that process that enables ANC, but taking out that software because the AirPods Pro still have to have microphones, and if they're reusing that design but without ANC, it doesn't really make much sense to me. Make them cheaper, that's it. I would be fine with that, but I don't know if we count those as Generation 3. If there's a third generation version of AirPods, they have to be doing something a little bit differently. Otherwise, they would just keep this and lower the price. But that's not what they're doing. Anyway, Matt K, 1201, thank you for the Twitch Prime sub for 20 months. Holy cow. People are up to 20 months. That's great. Thank you. And Cooper Bomb, thank you for the Twitch Prime as well. He just said, hey, and he's been subscribed for 13 months. Thank you very much. Let's see. The Force Stem will kind of kill the non-wireless charging case option. Kill the non-wireless. I see what you're saying. So you're saying the option to get AirPods without the wireless charging case. Get rid of that and then add the little Force Stem instead of the tap. Yeah, okay. That's something. I mean, something, I guess. But would people upgrade for that? Probably not. Would people care to upgrade for that? I mean, there's the obvious stuff. I mean, we can ask for lower latency, better battery life, better sound quality. You know, we can ask for all those things. But when it comes to the design itself, would they really go through the work of adding the Force Stem but keeping this universal fit style design? I mean, I remember a few renders a while back of them just shrinking the stem because if you're used to wearing AirPods Pro and then you suddenly switch to regular AirPods, you'll notice like the stem feels kind of long. Maybe they just shrink it down a little bit. But yeah, I mean, there's no design leaks currently. All we're hearing is AirPods of some kind coming out next month. Let's see. Los Farmos CTL, thank you for the Twitch Prime sub. Why the F do you still have to go to the desktop website to subscribe with Twitch Prime and it doesn't work from the app? I wouldn't get too mad at Twitch at that one. I think it may have something to do with Apple and what they allow within their app. So I think there might be a way to do it from your phone. You just have to do it through the browser. So if you go on Safari on your phone and your Twitch Prime account is linked to your Amazon Prime account is linked to your Twitch. You can Twitch Prime from a phone. You just can't do it from the app. But I do think it has something to do with Apple and what they allow with third-party application support. So don't get too mad at Twitch right away. Let's see. What did Mini Dinosaur say? I'm going to be honest. I have the original AirPods and I don't use them anymore. I used to use them when I left the house, which used to be a lot, and they've started to degrade. Audio is a lot quieter and they don't connect as easily as they used to. I use my Sony's almost exclusively now. Wish I used my AirPods more, but they just don't work well. I don't know what they could do to make it worth buying again since I already spent $160 on AirPods. Well, I mean, for one, a lot of people are not using the AirPods as much because we're all at home anyway. But yeah, I imagine whatever pair of Sonys you have are probably going to sound better. But AirPods are still the most popular headphones, and they are wireless headphones, but coming up on, I think, all-time headphones. But still, they're a phenomenon. Holy crap, they sold well, and man, people were wrong about them when they first came out. So this is a huge deal. Like, this is a huge piece of Apple's revenue now. And what they do with AirPods, I think, makes a big difference. But yeah, making a cheaper pair obviously would help, especially with Galaxy Buds coming out and stuff like that. I just don't know if there's much they can do with Generation 3 other than battery life improvements. I don't know, make the microphone sound better, but what do they give it? Like an H2 chip? We're still on the H1 chip. I guess it's been over a year since the Gen 2 AirPods came out. If we're not doing AirPods Pro in this next refresh, would it be that minor? I don't know. Like, it was a long time before they did anything with the AirPods. Keep that in mind. They're not something that get refreshed annually. But now all of a sudden we're hearing AirPods Pro getting refreshed at the end of this year, and AirPods X, which is meant for, sport use, and then regular AirPods are getting updated. It's like all these AirPod upgrades, they introduced them in 2016 with the iPhone 7 and then did nothing with them. Literally nothing with them. They didn't have a wireless charging case. They didn't change the price. They didn't do anything with the design until 2019. So it was a solid 3 years worth of nothing. They just had them and that was it. So it's definitely not something we should expect to change every 12 months like we do iPhones. TVTube, thank you for the Twitch Prime sub, 19 months. Will they be sound canceling? I don't think they could do much ANC on Gen 3 AirPods because they don't have the rubber seal, cup that goes in your ear and has a passive noise cancellation. So even if they tried to do the microphone matching of the surroundings and play the reverse frequencies to cancel out that audio, you'd still have the regular pass-through that AirPods provide. You notice when you put these things in your ear, you hear everything almost the exact same way because not audio, but normal sound goes right through them. So I don't see how there's a way they can keep this design but also add ANC. If they did, it wouldn't work very well. It would definitely not work as well as AirPods Pro. So at that point, why bother? If it would just be a little bit quieter? I don't know. Michael, thank you for the Twitch Prime sub for 19 months. Seriously, will there be sporty AirPods? Apparently that's what AirPods X are supposed to be. We'll see. Why even make another gen for AirPods? Yeah, that's the better question. Is there something they can add to Gen 2 other than just something really minor? I mean, it sounds boring, but is it possible that they just developed the H2 chip, or they found a way to make the battery life longer, or they found a way to, I don't know, maximize sound quality a little bit better, and just very, very minor, like the AirPods S of upgrades? Too many. Yeah, I agree. I think ANC will be a reserved for the pros feature. Vinny donated a quarter. I just want a new color. My AirPods turned case blue from my jeans. I know. I've been asking for that for so long. Ever since the 2016 AirPods came out, I've been wanting more colors, but they've never happened. And you can put a poop emoji on your AirPods, but you can't get them in black. So I'm convinced that there's an active reason Apple doesn't have color options for them. It must have something to do with the iconic look. They want them to look different, or they want them to stand out, and they like the white stem because it's just a recognizable thing. So that's my guess as to why they don't have colors yet, is it's a brand thing. They just want it to be recognizable as white for some reason. Maybe they want to improve the problems regarding to the battery degradation, since a lot of people have complained about that. A lot of people have. The issue is there's not a literal way to fix that. The smaller a battery is, the quicker it degrades. And AirPods, because they have things like Hello Siri support and you use them on FaceTime calls and phone calls, they're not going to use both mics. You will always get them out of order. You will always get one AirPod with more cycles than the other, because they're used for the microphone stuff. So because the batteries in them are so tiny, and when they degrade, that the sound quality gets impacted by that. That's a laws of physics thing. You can't really cheat physics and um, somehow make the batteries not degrade. I mean, if there's battery health features, they could do that now via software update. If they just wanted to limit the AirPods, like the amount of time they spend at 100% in the charge case, they could do that with all AirPods. It's just a firmware update. But so there's no need really for a hardware upgrade there. But yeah, that's kind of one of the fundamental design flaws of any wireless earbud, is that the batteries are so tiny, and when you use them for microphones and stuff, they get out of sync and they will degrade with time. It's inevitable. But you have a year to replace them for free. So if you've bought your AirPods and it was less than a year ago and you're noticing one is quieter than the other, you can contact Apple and they will replace it to you at no cost. So they do that, but yeah, there's not really a way to get around that. It's not really possible. I'm looking to buy my parents a new phone, and I'm deciding between the 10R for $0 or SE for $1, or iPhone 11 $250 or 10s for $150. If it's your parents, then get them an SE. Why is the SE $1 and the 10R $0? I don't understand. Maybe they can do like iPhone charging until 80%, but that's 100% firmware. Yeah, exactly. That nothing is hardware exclusive to that. Um, let's see. They get updated every like 3 to 4 years, not annually. Yeah, I mean, there's only been 2 generations of AirPods, so it's not too safe to say we're in like a consistent refresh cycle. If they want to do one this year, I guess they can. If they want to decide to make AirPods a more annual type thing, or semi-annual maybe. But yeah, I have a hard time thinking this Gen 3 is going to be a big deal. It's probably going to be a very minor upgrade, similar to Gen 2. It'll likely be some kind of like, you know, battery life improvement or chip. We put in a new chip, but the design stays the same. Yeah, let's see. Are you going to do a vid comparing 10R to SE 2020? No, is that a comparison people want to make? I mean, they're kind of different price points and very different phones. I thought what would be more interesting is comparing the iPhone 6 to the iPhone SE, because those phones actually have a lot of similarities and yet a ton of differences at the same time. So, I don't know why you want to compare the 10R to the SE, because the 10R has been around for a long time and it's still at $600, whereas the SE is $400. So you got a price gap there. Oh, that's right. We need AirPods with Wi-Fi 6 and 5G. When are we getting that? More software controls on the type of sound of the AirPods audio, just like Sony's WA. Oh my God. Anytime you guys list a Sony pair of headphones, it's like I legitimately believe the reason Sony headphones aren't as popular as they could be is because of the naming. That naming is so confusing, you can hardly ever recommend that to people. You can hardly ever be like, yeah, you should try the WH-1000s. It's like, if you know about those, you know about them, but if you don't know about them, you don't care about them, because it's so complicated to get on board with. You can change the audio to studio or concerts, theater, etc. Hardware-wise, nothing really. Yeah, that just sounds like a bunch of audio file customization that Apple probably wouldn't care about. Um, yeah. Starlink is better than 5G. Yes, please. I'm hoping they get to launch that soon. There's supposed to be another Starlink launch soon. AirPods 3 with U1 chip in the case. Yeah, that would be... I mean, they didn't put the U1 chip in the iPhone SE, which I found interesting. And they also didn't put a U1 chip in the iPad Pro for 2020. We thought they did, but then there was a correction later that turned out they didn't actually. So I was like, what's the point of this U1 chip if you're not putting it in all this stuff? I thought this was going to be like the new standard. I guess you could put it in AirPods and maybe make them easier to find. It'd be nice if they put GPS in the AirPods and you could locate them that way. Yeah, I believe that Sony WHs are great. I just hate the naming for them. It's awful. Obviously, Apple's lineup is more expensive in the UK, but $520 is still worth it. No. Well, I don't know the pricing of it in the UK, so I'm not basing it off of that. The majority of my audience is not in Europe, so that's why I don't really try to do comparisons based on other markets because the vast majority of my audience is all in the US and I'm in the US, so I understand that market a little bit better. Let's see. A better chip in U1 could be AirPods 3. Yeah, I would say if there are new AirPods coming out next month, the more I think about it, like these are gonna be a tiny upgrade. There's no way these are major. Starlink will not work with phones, at least at first. It's primarily built for home internet, but 5G is not going to be utilized at all, practically. What are your thoughts on AirTags having replaceable batteries? Personally, I would rather change out the batteries once a year than worry about charging them every 3 months. No, that's not what I prefer. Thank you for the 10 bits. I'm not saying you'd have to charge them every 3 months, but still, I would rather drop them on a charge pad once every 3 months than go to have to every year when they die have to go to a grocery store and try to find a place that sells the replacement batteries or have to order them because that turns it into a recurring expense. That turns it into something you have to buy once a year, even if it is cheap. I would rather just drop it on a charger I already have. Yeah, charging once every 90 days is way better than running errands to the store, in my opinion. But in my ideal vision, I don't think they would need to be recharged every 3 months. I would still imagine them having a battery life of closer to 6 months. Come on, you can't act like charging every 3 months is that bad. That's not annoying at all. AirPods 3 should have different colors, maybe more durable casing material. I feel like we would have heard about that if they were doing it. I feel like that would have been a pretty obvious leak because it's in, we hear about things in manufacturing pretty early before they actually start rolling out. Maybe if we get a few more leaks that suggest there's like design changes coming or different finishes coming of some kind, but if AirPods 3 doesn't have a touch bar, we riot. So what do we got for potential? I mean, we've got the tiny upgrades, which is, sound quality improvements, battery life improvements, um, talk time, power efficiency with a new CPU or things like that. We've got maybe adding the Force Stem sensor, the Force Touch sensor to the stem, similar to AirPods Pro, which would be a slight design change, but yeah, it would be still kind of weird. We've got maybe ditching the non-wireless charging case and just making Qi charging standard on all AirPods. AirPods SE, old design and pro sound quality. Yeah, but I mean, this is the old design. We've only had like two designs of AirPods, and we're still rocking the Gen 2. Is that really SE territory? Yeah, when are we getting the Slofi button? Maybe they'll bring water resistance to the regular AirPods. Oh, yeah, they would do something tiny like that, wouldn't they? No, why is there lag? I'm sorry. I don't know why there's lag. Something's on my Wi-Fi network. It's our neighbors, probably. I turned off Wi-Fi and as many things as I could. We need a headphone jack on AirPods because we need to think of those audiophiles who complain. That wouldn't make any sense. You play audio off the AirPods? Ugh. Make it ceramic like the Apple Watch? That would make it insanely expensive. That ceramic material is not cheap. Oh my god, that'd be like $600 AirPods. Let's see. If I was the CEO of Apple, I would make resolution the top priority. They really don't care. Wait, resolution? I think they don't care because people don't care. The best-selling iPhone went from 400 pixels per inch to 300 pixels per inch. That's because people don't care that much. Biometrics? No, we had some lag on my end. I don't know. I don't know why it's lagging, but no. Oh yeah, the video dropped at 9:30. I already forgot. I scheduled it at the wrong time. I was supposed to schedule it an hour from now. Oh well, enjoy the new video if you want, or you can watch it later and hang out here. Make metal AirPods that are stainless steel. It was an accident. That's probably why it freaked out. It's because of the scheduled upload. I was trying to drop them at 10:30, but the YouTube scheduler thing, I clicked 9:30 instead of 10:30. That's my bad. You can it'll still be there later. It's okay. You guys act like you get $100 if you watch the video in the first 10 minutes that it's uploaded. It doesn't matter when you watch it. It's the same video. Or a floppy disk. Let's see. want to buy proper Wi-Fi. Yes, the same Wi-Fi that's I've been live streaming on for 10 months suddenly messes up now, and now it's my fault. Everyone knows the best earbuds are Surface Buds because they're bigger. Does anyone use those? Did those come out even? Remember Pixel Buds? Remember Pixel Buds were a thing, and they still haven't come out yet, have they? Would they temporarily cannibalize the AirPods Pro and upgrade those in the fall, or make incremental upgrades? I don't think anything they could add to the regular AirPods would cannibalize the AirPods Pro, because those AirPods Pro are just built around. They're just built. I mean, the next gen Pixel Buds, the ones without the wire. Um, AirPods Pro are kind of all built around the transparency mode in A and C, and I highly doubt they would bring those to the regular AirPods. So all they can really do is make them better battery life, I guess. Did you get a chance to order the new Magic Keyboard for the iPad Pro? Yes. You guys not watch my videos? I answer these things all the time. I ordered it the day it was available. The minute it was available, I ordered it right away. It should get here. Let me check the tracking info. The Apple Store said tomorrow, but UPS says Wednesday. So yeah, they could get here tomorrow. They could. But UPS is claiming they'll get here in 2 days. So yeah, that's when I'm getting mine. I don't have an exclusive partnership with Apple, so I don't get sent stuff early like everybody else. I have to order it just like regular people. The new Pixel Buds come out next May. May's pushing it awfully close to summer. I am also getting the SE on Friday. Yes, we got tons of hardware coming out uh, this week. In fact, there's the lag again. I'm sorry, guys. I don't know why it's lagging all of a sudden. I'm not doing anything differently. I think it's all on the Xfinity's end. I see the lag, guys. I see it. I've done literally nothing differently today, and yet now the internet's freaking out. It's probably because everybody's at home quarantined, and now I'm getting less of the bandwidth. Let's see. Have you changed the lighting on your videos? They look a bit brighter compared to before. Not any different than normal. Yes, I own my own house, but I am very poor because there is Wi-Fi lagging. Have you seen the first new videos about the Magic Keyboard case? Yeah, I was watching a bunch because a bunch of media and press invites and stuff we're getting Magic Keyboards early, and it looks pretty cool. I like how sturdy everyone's saying it is. Like, it's made of metal and high quality materials, and the trackpad was pretty much exactly what I expected, which is you can click anywhere on it because Apple's known for that with their trackpads, but at the same time it's not haptic feedback. It's not a force touch trackpad, which is what I thought it was going to be. No, which is what I was expecting it wasn't going to be. I was like, nah, there's no way they can fit a force touch on there. So I figured it would be like a really, really decent trackpad that's not, a force touch one. So I'm really, really excited to try it out because honestly, it looks very close to the keyboard on the MacBooks. But a lot of people reviewing them are all reviewing the 11-inch variant, which does look kind of cramped. So after seeing the 11-inch Magic Keyboard cases, I'm like really, really happy that I stuck with the 12.9-inch, because if I'm going to be using that thing in laptop mode sometimes, then I want the biggest display possible. Let's see. I've reached out to Everything Apple Pro. He didn't want to collab. The Pixel Buds are terrible. I can't wait to get Galaxy Buds. The wire makes it terrible and put it in the case, and the magnets are very weak. I was downstairs and the buds were in the case upstairs, yet somehow they connected to my phone and the audio started playing through the buds. Ew. Why would they do that? I always thought those were confusing. As soon as they unveiled those Galaxy Buds, I was like, that's stupid. You have to wind them up every time you put them in the case. No wonder. Why don't you contact the Apple press contacts to partner with them to receive early review units like the other YouTubers? Recently, Lou from Unbox Therapy did the same. Yeah, I saw that. Yeah, no. I don't really have much of a motivation. I mean, people that have contacts and sources with Apple have had them for a very, very long time. And I've spoken and I've contacted people, and I've talked to pretty regularly people who have inside contacts at Apple. I'm not talking about people who leaks things. I'm talking about people that, get you products early. And you basically have to be contacted by them. That's the one constant I've found throughout the years, is that none of them just went to Apple or emailed the right guy and suddenly got stuff early. That's never been the case. It's always been someone came out to them. So it's kind of an invite only thing. It's not something I can do on my part. It's not something it's like, oh, you just got to find the right email address and then you ask them, hey, can I get stuff early? And they're like, oh, sure. Like, it has a lot to do with how long you've been, usually they want to contact you if you're more established and you've been around for many, many years. And I'm still relatively new. I'm also incredibly young. I don't know anybody my age that gets that stuff early, so that could be part of their, differentiating factors of who they contact and who they give stuff out early to. But yeah, all the people who are like have contacts on the inside are much, much older than I am. Let's see. I know you guys post the podcast on Mondays, but when do you record? We usually record every Saturday, though, because Nick and Randy both also have full-time jobs outside of the podcast. That changes a lot depending on, what comes up with their work. So that's typically the time I reserve for them. Sometimes we mix it up a little bit, but yeah, for the most part, we record on Saturday mornings, and then they edit them, and they have them all ready to go by Monday. That's the normal. That's the normal routine. Let's see. Why are there like 1,000 AirPods models being rumored? See, that's the thing. That kind of happened last year. I don't know if you guys remember, but early in 2019, there were rumors of like black AirPods are coming, AirPods Gen 3 are coming. Like it's similar to how we have people saying, oh, there's a new iPad Pro coming in the fall. That's going to have the real good 5G A14X chip. You should wait for that one. It was kind of similar to when the Gen 2 AirPods dropped in March. Right after that, I remember watching all these videos of people saying, well, there's going to be more AirPods coming at the end of this year. So this is actually just kind of the minor refresh. And here we are over a year later, and those are still the most recent, standard AirPods. So I feel like not all of these can be true. Something's got to be wrong. Either the Gen 3 AirPods aren't correct, or AirPods X isn't correct, or the over-ears aren't happening. Something's got to be off. If I had to guess, it would be AirPods X. I think Digitimes, which gets stuff wrong a lot, was saying that there was going to be a refreshed version of AirPods Pro at the end of this year, and I'm like, I just instantly don't believe anything they say because they're the ones who were like, there's going to be 7 different colors of AirPods Pro. So I'm like, yeah, I don't buy them. I'm not going to believe anything they say. Let's see. If you watch 4K YouTube videos on iPhone 12, people would notice. No, they wouldn't. There's a 4K 4K phones were a thing and no one bought into them, and now it's not a technological limitation. Like, they came out years ago and no one cared. That's why Samsung used to ship their phones with 1440p by default, and now they don't because they realize most people don't notice. Also, the most popular model of iPhone used to be 1080p. Now it's not 1080p. You know why? It's because it wasn't a big enough difference for people to care. That's a tech thing. That's a techie YouTube community thing. It's got to be 401 pixel per inch. It's got to have this resolution. It has to be the certain size. It really doesn't. When an average person picks up an iPhone XR, they're like, the display looks fine. Looks good. They don't need it to be higher than that. And the tech community is not the majority of smartphone buyers. We are a very, very small sliver of people that buy phones. So acting like we are the majority and Apple needs to cater to our needs is ridiculous. I'll stop hating on Lightning when you stop copy and pasting messages in the chat. How about that? Get some more original questions. They want to copy Samsung's phone lineup. You can never have too many. Yeah, except with AirPods somehow. Let's see. Is Louise awake? Bring her on the show. She's enjoying her morning. She's relaxing right now. We'll give her a break. I think Apple R&D just gets bored and starts prototyping a bunch of different AirPods. I believe that, Scott. I think you're right. I think there's all kinds of AirPod prototypes behind the scenes. Just because someone is reporting that AirPods X is coming, or reporting that over-ears of some kind are coming, or there's AirPods Pro refresh are coming. Even if someone's reporting that, they may not be lying. They may have sources that are telling them that, but that does not guarantee the product is coming out, in my opinion. It doesn't guarantee that. If you want products early, be like iJustine. Well, given there's no way for me to become a 35-year-old woman, I'm going to say that's not possible. Have you heard of Twitter? Pretty cool. Just found it. No, I haven't. What's that like? Is that like Quippy? It's probably going to flop. No one's going to use Twitter. Breaking. Apple is rumored to be working on new products to be released. Yes. Thank you, Many Dinosaur, for filling us in on the inside scoop. Yeah. How they want to copy Samsung's phone lineup. There's already leaks for more Galaxy Buds coming out too. Those little bean-looking ones. Let's see. What do you think of Google possibly making their own chipsets for the Pixel phones? Here's why I don't buy those rumors. I'll believe it when I see it, but those rumors have been going around for a long, long time. I know because I've been following them, and there were rumors of that in 2017. Literally, back in 2017, I was reading articles that Google was working on their own custom CPUs for the Pixel phones, and I was like, oh, that might be kind of interesting. They could rival the Apple A series of chips. Here we are 3 years later. They're still not doing that. They're still using Qualcomm. So Google blows all kinds of money on all kinds of projects. Are they working on their own custom CPUs for the Pixel phones? Yeah, they could be, but that doesn't mean they're coming out this year. So I would not believe those rumors until the phone actually comes out and it has a custom made Google CPU in it. That's the only way I would buy it. Holy cow, we got a major donation from Chris Norton 2000, who's donating 2,000 bits. Thank you very much. How many iPhones does Apple release a year? 6 sounds a lot. Yeah, I agree. I don't think it'll be 6 personally. I think this year we're getting 5. I think there's multitudes of analysts and reporters all coming to the conclusion that we're getting 4 different iPhones in September. They may not ship in September, but around that, they're going to have an event in September. I'd be very surprised if they didn't have an event at that month. They may ship later on, but that's obviously going to be iPhone 12 comes in 2 sizes, and iPhone 12 Pro comes in 2 sizes. Obviously, you'll have the LiDAR in the 2 Pros, and you won't have LiDAR. You'll just have dual cameras on the regular 12s. You're going to have 5.4 inch, 6.1 inch, and then 6.1 inch and 6.7 inch, all OLED, squared edges, at least on the Pros, maybe on the whole lineup. And yeah, we just got the SE. So that's a total of 5 in 2020, which is the most they've ever had. So that's quite a bit, I know, but it's also like the biggest single source of revenue from Apple is the iPhone. So making sure that you have a model for as many people out there as possible and you cater to as many demographics as possible to keep them happy is a really, really, sound move. So I would say 5 it's getting up there, but yeah, I don't buy the rumors of a SE Plus coming out at the end of this year. I don't think that's going to happen, especially that they discontinued the 8 Plus. So now that 8 Plus, the Plus model iPhone has been extinguished. It's not here anymore. So there's very, very few times. In fact, it's never happened. There's never been a time Apple has discontinued a phone design and then brought it back later. If they stop making a particular design, they don't bring it back. They didn't bring back the 5C after they discontinued it. They may replace something. Like they were selling the iPhone 8, now they sell the SE. So the SE replaced the 8. But they didn't replace the 8 Plus with anything. So in my opinion, that's an indication that they're not bringing it back. If there was to be an SE Plus, it would have dropped at the same time as the SE. And I don't think it's coming out in 2021 either. That doesn't make sense to me. Are you going to pre-order the Rebel case from Everything Apple Pro? No, I mean, for one, I don't use cases, so it would be kind of pointless. And also, outside of that, I don't really like the look. It's nothing personal. It's just I've seen the Everything Apple Pro case, and I don't think it looks very good. Jordan can be wrong, guys. Remember that. Just because he said it doesn't mean it's absolutely happening. Google needs to chill with the Pixel. Like, who buys that? I mean, YouTubers. Marquez likes it, but yeah. I mean, if they just made the A series of phones, they shouldn't make the Pixel 4a. They should just make what the 4a is leaked to be and then call it the Pixel 5 and just make, mid-range phones forever. That would be great. What do you think will be the prices on the new models, especially a 5.4-inch one? So here's my guess that a lot of people have agreed with. I think that the 5.4-inch model is going to be $700. That's the way they can say the iPhone lineup starts at the same price. The iPhone 12 Max, which will be larger, will start at did I say 700? Yeah, 700 starting, and then the Max version will be 800, and then the 12 Pro will start at 1100, and the 12 Pro Max will start at 1200. So it's going to be a price jump for the Pros by $100 because they're getting a lot of features, and I do expect 128 gigs to be standard across the whole lineup, so people will appreciate that. But yeah, I think the Pro iPhones will get more expensive, probably because they have the millimeter wave 5G modems, which ups the price. They're gaining lidar, they're getting big. The 6.7, it's a very new design. The squared off edges is rumored to cost more to manufacture, so that's why I would agree. Um, I would agree with the price lineup still having a $300 difference. So the reason I think the 12 Max, even at 6.1 inch, is going to be $100 more than what the iPhone 11 is at 6.1 inches because it's switching to OLED, new design, updated internals, updated storage, and then the 5.4 inch one, just because it's so small, that's why they'll price that at 700. That's my guess. Two phones is the best mix from Chris Norton. Thank you for the 100 bits. I mean, there's people who like simplicity. I know a lot of people are like Steve Jobs just wanted one simple iPhone. But there's a lot of cons that come with a simple lineup because when you have hundreds of millions of people that are your target audience, it's very difficult to just make two pieces of hardware that apply to all of them. It would be very, very simple if there were no like configurable tech specs on MacBooks. And they were just like, hey, you know what? Every 16-inch MacBook Pro has the exact same storage, exact same CPU, exact same RAM. But that would be bad, right? Because everyone would be like, well, some people want less storage or less RAM, and some people want more storage or more RAM, or a better CPU or a worse CPU, depending on what their use case is. So differentiating the lineup makes sense when you have an extremely large user base. You have some people that love smaller iPhones. You have some people that hate smaller phones. You have some people that want the best display possible, and you want some people that don't really care that much about the display. They just want it to work. So they're kind of forced to. They're kind of forced to have a lineup this complicated. I know it's kind of confusing at first, but the iPad lineup is more confusing in my opinion. They already have like 5 different iPads in that. iPad Mini, iPad Air, iPad Pro, and bigger iPad Pro. It's all over the place. And iPad Mini is not the cheapest one. It's kind of weird. When the 12 Pro comes, will the 11 Pro still be good fun to buy? Yeah, nothing's wrong with the 11 Pro, objectively. It'll probably go down in value, but I doubt Apple would sell it. Don't expect Apple to keep selling the 11 Pro. If they do, it'll be on certified refurbished. But similar to the 10S getting discontinued last year, the 11 Pro will more than likely get discontinued. Let's see. Future iPhones with the smart connector to charge it and remove the lightning to phase us to the portless future, but may not be the 12. Jern mentioned it. What do you think, True? No, I don't think we're getting portless this year. People would have mentioned that by now. And we're already seeing CAD files and renders for the iPhone 12, and they all have the lightning port. So that's just something we're going to have to live with for a little bit longer, which sucks because I don't like lightning, but I use Qi charging exclusively anyway. So I don't really care that it's lightning. If I had to choose between 120 hertz and USB-C, I would take 120 hertz every single day because the majority of the time I don't charge my phone with a port anyway, so I don't really care if it's lightning or USB-C. But if it has to be there, I would rather it be USB-C, but yeah, I don't know. And the fact is they include USB-C to lightning cables in the box anyway, so it's not the end of the world, but I don't think lightning should stick around. Like, I don't think it needs to be here, but it's also not terrible. 5G is not practical. Yes, I think we can all agree. I think we all agree. No one in here agrees that 5G is the hype is real for 5G and people should be as excited as they are. We get that. If there is 120 hertz, it will almost definitely only be on the Pro iPhones. I don't think the cheaper iPhones will get it, but there's no concrete rumors or leakers claiming that it's getting 120 hertz. I hope it is. It makes sense that it would because Apple gets all their displays from Samsung, and Samsung is making 120 hertz displays right now, so why can't they supply Apple with one? OnePlus has moved to 120 hertz, Samsung's moved to 120 hertz. Like, that's the way the industry is moving. If Apple wants to stay relevant and keep up with current day market trends, it would make sense. But Apple's also known to be the kind of company that kind of doesn't care about those techie spec little upgrades year over year. So I'm really really worried that they're not gonna not care and just leave it at 60 hertz. And the truth is, it probably won't hurt sales that much because while 120 hertz is nice, it's not something I think people will ditch the iPhone over. I don't think, the tech community is a different thing. I know someone in the chat's going to be like, I'm not getting an iPhone unless it's 120 hertz. I would be disappointed if it wasn't, but I would still buy it because I'm an Apple sheep and I want the new hardware anyway. And it's also my job, nonetheless, to talk about it. But 120 hertz is just one of those things that I really, really appreciate, but you also get used to it pretty quickly. You know, I've had a phone with 120 hertz like the S20 Ultra, and then I went back to my iPhone. And yeah, it kind of sucks at first, but then you're used to it within like a day. You guys still have some 5G towers here in India. There's planned to have 5G. There's no plan to have 5G for the next 2 years, but hey, the new OnePlus has 5G. Yeah, it's so hilarious to see people on Android and buying Android phones talk about how we want 5G in our phones for longevity, even though they're buying phones that are not going to get software updates for 4 years. Like no, these people that never bring up software support on iPhones versus Android. But now they're like, well, for longevity's sake, we want to have 5G modems now so that you're ready in the future. It's like you're not going to have that phone in 3 years. You're going to stop getting software updates in like 2 years, and then security updates for a third year, and then the phones, you're not going to want that phone in 3 years. My opinion, refresh rate is one of the most notable specs that Apple should focus on. Resolution and RAM, not so much. Yeah, I would agree, but I agree that it should not be. I would also suggest that it should not be on the regular iPhones because no one who just buys phones because they need a new phone is going to care about 120 hertz. That's definitely something that should be on the Pro models and not the regular models. Leaked AirPods Pro come with iPhone 64 Pro. That would be nice. I'm not getting an iPhone until it gets 240 hertz 10G. That would be amazing. The biggest thing with 120 hertz is Apple loves to run the OLED phones at max resolution, and doing that with 120 is known to be a battery killer. Yeah, but Apple has kind of, in a way, been doing 120 hertz much longer than everybody else because they started doing it with the iPad Pros in June of 2017, and no one in the tablet market can even keep up with them on the refresh rate of their displays. And the whole selling point with those was that ProMotion was different than just running the display at 120 hertz because ProMotion could dynamically change the refresh rate depending on what you were utilizing at the time. So that preserved battery life. So when we got 120 hertz on the iPad, it didn't kill the battery. So I'm hoping we can get something like that on the iPhones this year so that battery life is not compromised, but you can still have 120 hertz. And I've used 120 hertz on the S20, and I'm sure how it is on the OnePlus 8. And it takes a hit on the battery, but it's not that bad. It's not like it becomes unusable. In typical Apple fashion, they will not include 120 hertz in their new iPhones this year. I would definitely expect the regular 12s to not have them, but yeah, I mean, it's definitely possible they won't have them on the Pros, and I will be very disappointed if they don't. But it's what's on the display that matters much more than what the display is made of or how the display runs. It's way more important. I would rather have 60 hertz iOS than 240 hertz Android. Let's put it that way. They better pull a Note 9 and include a Fortnite skin. Yeah, that would be fantastic. Let's see. Want to know what else is a battery killer? Jerry rig everything. Well, he's just an iPhone killer in general. Just bend it in half, right? I'm thinking of holding on to my Note 8 for another year, which should mean 4 years with the phone. Yeah, but how many software updates are you getting with it? Thicker battery for the 120 hertz and eliminate the camera bumps. I don't mind it thicker phones. Yeah, I mean, I've been asking for thinner camera bumps for years now, and it's never happened, so I've kind of given up hope. I think it's Apple's logic of most people use a case anyway. Like Marquez has a huge user base, and his poll suggested that 80% of people have a case on their phone. And that's the tech community. Outside of the tech community, I would expect that to be even higher. So it's like majority of the time people have a case in the first place. So I just don't get why 120 is such a huge issue. I just don't notice the difference between my 11 Pro and iPad Pro. It's not something I would or wouldn't buy a phone over. No, that's my point. Like I too would not buy a phone just for that, or I would not skip a phone just for that. It's just something that so much of the industry is adopting already that it feels very, very bizarre that Apple hasn't adopted it yet, especially because they've done 120 hertz on their devices for 3 years now. Just not the iPhones. They've had it on the iPads for so long, and people love it. And they're going with the squared off design, which I always thought, why would Apple go back to the squared off design? The only reason they did it on the iPad was for the Apple Pencil charger connector. But now they're bringing it to the iPhones. It's like, okay, so they're clearly listening. There's enough people that are like, hey, we want the squared off design. We think this looks good. We like the iPhone 5 and 4 edges. Let's move back to that. And now they're doing it. So it's my hope that if they're trying to make the iPhone more like the iPad with the 120 hertz, then take the promotion with that, not just the squared edges. That's my hope. That would be great. A lot of people actually can't see or feel the difference between 60 and 120. Yeah, I agree. It is very much a tech community thing. I'm a huge sucker for refresh rates, but I completely acknowledge majority of people don't care or notice. If they do notice, they don't care that much. I tried. I remember when I first got my 2017 iPad Pro, and it was 120 hertz, and I was like, oh my God, this is so nice. It's so smooth. I love it. And I showed it to all of my friends and family, and most of them did not notice. I was like, do you notice anything about this display? And they're like, I mean, it's nice, I guess, that it's just not something most people care about. So I can totally see why Apple wouldn't add it. Their main logic with adding it to the iPad was Apple Pencil support and lower latency with drawing. And we're not getting the Apple Pencil on the iPhone. Don't believe those rumors. They've been around for years now, and it's never happened. Let's see. Did you get the iPad Pro keyboard yet? Like I said earlier, I don't get it early because I am not a news publication. But I ordered mine and should get here either tomorrow or the next day. Tomorrow at the earliest, the next day at the latest. 120 hertz input interaction is far more noticeable than the visual aspect of it. Which, yeah, I mean, I don't know if I agree with that. Is the input interaction that noticeable to average people? I mean, tech community people, sure, they may pick up on that, but the average person, I don't think they would notice as easily. Yes, I'm keeping the Magic Keyboard for sure. I'm not returning that. I'll be keeping that forever. I notice it, but I wouldn't pay extra. I do like the lower latency for the Apple Pencil. That is nice. I consider myself a techie, but I don't notice the difference between my iPhone and iPad Pro display rate. I'm sorry if I disappointed you. You don't disappoint me. My goal is not for everyone else to notice it because I notice it. It's just that I really care about that feature. I really notice it and appreciate it. So it would be nice if it came to the iPhone. But if it doesn't, I'll live. I'll just be very disappointed. But outside of that, there's not a whole lot for me to be excited for with the next iPhone. I mean, slightly thinner bezels, updated design, maybe a slimmer notch. I mean, all things that are reactionary, Design changes are very much like you notice them and you appreciate them within the first week or two of using the phone, and then you go back to normal. There was a lot of changes with the 11 Pro Max that made like a big difference in the long term. Like, ultra wide is a new feature that wasn't there that you now have wherever you go. Whenever you're taking pictures or videos, you can now do that. I feel like battery life was a huge one. Like the fact that my 10s Max had an okay battery life. I was definitely like 20% to 10% by the end of each day. But with this, it's insane. Like I can end the day at 60% every day now, and that just makes me feel like I have so much more flexibility. It makes a day-to-day difference for like the life of the phone. Whereas squared off edges, thinner notch, does that really make a big difference on the day-to-day? No. I mean, it's really cool when you first get it. It's really good for pictures and videos, and it's like, wow, they changed the design. It looks great. But then after that, you're like, okay, it's just my phone again. I'll take it if it's added on the phone. I mean, it's meant to be a pro feature. It's not something meant for everybody. That's why the iPhone 12 would not have it. I'm debating not upgrading this year. Green is my favorite color. I don't care about 5G or 120. And if it's still going to have lightning, why bother? LiDAR? Maybe, but I'm not buying furniture anytime soon, and I don't really play games on my phone. Yeah, I want to reiterate, LiDAR will not just be for AR demos. Ugh. Why is it texting on that? Sorry, you did not get a text. Forgot to hit the do not disturb thing on here. Um, when will we be seeing an iPad Pro Magic Keyboard review? Well, there's already lots online. You can go watch them. I cannot make mine until I get it, so wait for that. Do you like big phones or small phones? I am a big phone guy. As long as it fits in my pocket, I want the biggest display possible within a reasonable aspect ratio. I'm not a big fan of the S20 Ultra's aspect ratio. That was a little too tall for me. But I like big screens because I have big hands. Sorry, I forgot to hit the do not disturb thing. Um, but yeah, I mean, everyone debates not upgrading each year. I remember thinking that I didn't want to get the iPhone 11 last year because I was hearing it didn't have 3D touch. But circumstances changed a lot, and when new Apple products come out, everything changes because you see how they market it, and you see features that you didn't anticipate, and you see use cases that you didn't think you wanted, and now you realize you wanted it all along. So it's very easy when the phone isn't out and we don't really know much about it to think, yeah, I don't want it. I'm not going to use it. Um, but then once it actually comes out, you're like, okay, that's pretty cool. That looks pretty amazing. So the iPhone 12 Pro is not going to be that small. Don't get too excited. Why do Apple users all use the same notification and ringtones? Because that's the default one, and we don't care about changing it because who cares the sound it makes? Because Apple users like things to just work. They don't like tinkering and fixing their devices as soon as they get them, which is what you kind of have to do with a lot of Windows and Android devices. Is you gotta fix it, you gotta customize it, you gotta install a launcher, you gotta rearrange the home screen, you gotta rearrange the launch, you gotta change all the customizations and settings because there's so many of them into your liking. Whereas Apple users just want it to, you know, turn on and start working. That's all we want. We don't care about those settings. That's why you notice a lot of Mac OS people with all the same wallpaper. True, I know myself. I'll see that redesign video and I'll be all over it. Once everyone sees it as going back to the iPhone 5 design, everyone will think it looks amazing. Apple's marketing is really good, and look at the iPhone SE ad. I would get one now. Yeah, they made the SE look like amazing. They made it look like this really cool, aesthetically pleasing looking phone, and it's basically like the same design from 5 years ago, 6 years ago. iPhone 6. Is it coming up on 7 years? 6 years. No, because the iPhone 6 came out in 2014. So yeah, this year it'll be 6 years old. Dang, it's a very old dated design, but their marketing and the way they frame things, they just know how to make stuff look good. They're good at that. Let's see. I see confusion where OnePlus goes off in a party. Yeah, it's funny that OnePlus introduces a phone with all these cool features and all these great tech specs, and then the SE steals all the thunder. Everyone wants to talk about that, even though it's very, very minor when it comes to the actual upgrades. But because it's an iPhone and because Apple's good at their framing and marketing images and making stuff desirable, it says a lot about software. It makes a big difference when the iPhone SE, which at surface value, it very much is kind of a boring phone. It's a very stale. It's the same phone we've had for years, just with some better specs and some more camera features. And yet that has way more interest than OnePlus doing all of these next level 30-watt wireless charging, 120 hertz, and huge display and speed and the Snapdragon and 5G all at $900. It's like, yeah, it's kind of, it says a lot about like, well, the iPhone runs iOS though, so more people are inclined to get it. If OnePlus offered to send you a phone, would you take it? Oh yeah, I've never said no to a free phone. Keep that in mind. If anybody who's ever offered me a phone for free, I will accept it as long as there's no like, you have to talk about this or you have to say these things. Like I won't sign a contract for a free phone. I won't be like, you get this phone for free if you agree to make a video about it and talk about these things. Like I won't do that. If they just want to, hey, we'll send you a phone. Could you give us your thoughts on it? I'd be like, sure. I mean, I'll make a video about it, but I'm not going to like appeal to what they require me to say. I don't want to read a script. I don't want them to have any control over what I think of the phone. And the phone being free does not change my opinion of it. Like I will not, unlike some YouTubers that like to include the fact that, hey, this company didn't send me this phone for free, so keep that in mind when I'm reviewing it. Like, yeah, don't don't bring that up. Because I can, if I want to review a phone, I can buy it and return it, and it ends up costing me nothing. So it's not like suddenly the phone is more valuable to me if it was sent to me as a gift. But yeah, I said yes to the Pixel 3 and the Pixel 3 XL, which were both gifts. At the time, I was in Team Pixel, but not anymore. Cosminator, thank you for the Twitch Prime sub for 19 months. Are you going to do an unboxing today on YouTube? No, we're not getting it today, like I said earlier. What is the point of the iPhone SE? Is the iPhone 8 slow? It doesn't even have a 4K front camera. Well, it's to give it more software support for one, and it made it cheaper. So the iPhone 8, in case you didn't know, started at $450. iPhone SE starts at $400, which $50 goes a long way when your device is only $400. So they made it cheaper. They updated the CPU, which allowed it to have more portrait mode options for both the front and back cameras. They brought black bezels to every single color finish, which looks a lot better. And that means that phone's going to get 6 years of updates instead of the A11, which is not going to get 6 years of updates. So yeah, they basically provided an option for people out there who cared about the home button, Touch ID, just wanted a phone that worked, and they wanted to hold on to it for a long, long time and still have the latest, greatest CPU powering it. So yeah, it's not pointless. Would you eat an avocado if you knew it would kill you? No. No, I would not. Do we know how much RAM the SE has? Pretty sure it has 3 gigs of RAM. I mean, Apple doesn't like talking about how much RAM their devices has, but we're pretty sure it's 3. Pixel Boy is still giving me nightmares. That's on you. I remember Pixel Boy. The Pixel 4 was so bad I didn't even want to review it. Ugh. It looked so bad. How'd you get into Team Pixel? Because I've been wanting to review their phones. Similar to what I said earlier about, Apple sending you free stuff. It's not something you apply for. It really, again, I've talked to people that get stuff early or get notified of what Apple's going to release early. And you don't get invited to that. It's not like Craig Federighi just suddenly emails you, hey, I like your channel. Can we send you free stuff? Well, I take that back. It's exactly that. Craig Federighi himself. It's not something you have to find the right email for. You don't ask Apple for that. They ask you. So if you're not getting asked, similar to Team Pixel, someone reached out to me. I didn't reach out to Google and say, hey, can I have some of your Pixel phones? I don't like them. That's kind of what Unbox Therapy did. It's funny that every single year it's like, don't buy the iPhone, don't buy the iPhone, don't buy the iPhone, don't buy the iPhone. Apple, why won't you send me iPhone? It's like, I don't know. It's weird. It's like they don't like you for some reason. Maybe they feel like you won't endorse their product very much. Tesla was selling shirts of the cracked Cybertruck window. They are still doing that. Yeah, I tweeted about it when they started doing that. I love how RAM on a phone wasn't a problem until Android became so terrible it needed more RAM. Now every time an iPhone doesn't have 12 gigs of RAM, Android fanboys scream bloody murder. Sorry, our OS is properly optimized. Well, the thing I try to remind people with RAM, I feel like people oftentimes don't understand what RAM is for. RAM is for how many things you can do at once. It's like the size of your desk. It's not the speed of your productivity. And a phone cannot do very many things at once because it's a phone. We're talking maximum 6.5-inch display. Some phones are getting higher than that, but still, because it's something you're meant to most of the time use with your thumb, most of the time with one hand. RAM, having 8 gigs, 12 gigs of RAM is what you do when you have a desktop, when you're running multiple programs like Final Cut and Safari and Finder. You're doing multiple different tasks. That's when it makes more sense for you to have 8 gigs, 16 gigs of RAM. If you're on a phone and you're browsing social media or watching YouTube videos, it's even with split screen multitasking on a phone, you really can't do much. You're talking, even with split screen multitasking on Android, you're talking maybe like texting and a video, or watching a video and browsing the internet. None of that stuff requires 12 gigs of RAM unless something's objectively wrong with the OS, that it doesn't know how to manage RAM very well, which we all know that's the Android situation. Um, it's like many people have said in the past. It's like if your phone has 16 gigs of RAM, it says more about the OS than it does the multitasking capabilities. They should have made an iPhone SE with the iPhone 10 form factor and the iPhone 12 called 12Y. What? You stop making these too complicated namings. Will you do TikTok? I have no reason to. No. Um, but yeah, exactly. The camera takes up a lot of RAM. Are you taking photos and videos and simultaneously doing something else? Typically, people using the camera are only using the camera. That's kind of the whole. You notice how there's no like window support on most phones? I know there's some Samsung tweak that lets you run apps in a window as you're navigating, but no one does that. Majority of the time you're using apps on your phone, you're using one app at a time. So you don't need an insane amount of RAM on a phone unless the app or the OS is designed very poorly. No other Android manufacturer has made an iPhone SE equivalent yet. The iPhone SE didn't make customers feel the need to get the regular 11 or the Pro. Android does the compromises things to lure consumers to get the premium one. Well, I mean, Android on average is still cheaper. They just don't have the CPU power that the SE does, and that's kind of Apple's advantage here, is because the A13 chip probably did cost a lot of money to develop, but it's all about the research and development part of that. That's where all the money is spent. The manufacturing part of the A13 chip is not that much. Like, it does not really cost that much to build an A13 chip. It costs a lot of money to design, but not to build. So once they start implementing the A13 chip into the new iPhone 11 series, the bulk of the money has been spent already. So diverting those chips to a dated design like the iPhone SE is not that expensive because, again, manufacturing it is not that much. It's just the development part, which has already been done. So that's why the iPhone SE makes a lot of sense for Apple, because they can put in a really heavily powered CPU and charge less. You notice, like, it's way better than the iPhone 8, and yet it costs $50 less. They're able to do that because the A13 chip, again, does not cost much to make. I need more RAM for my calculator. RAM is like Tetris. Make use of the space you have. There you go. That makes sense. Do you ever think of learning how to create software for iOS or macOS? Use Xcode? Yeah, I tried doing a little bit of code in high school. I think it was like a coding class. I don't even remember what it was called, but I have some minor experience, very, very minor, brief experience with coding, and it was instantly not my thing. I was like, I am not good at this, and I don't like doing this. It's not enjoyable to me. Um, anybody I know who gets into software development or writing code um, has always shown me that it takes a lot of dedication and time. And time is not a resource I have a ton of right now because all of my time is diverted towards making content, both for YouTube or doing live streams or doing podcasts. So I'm not looking for any type of new hobby or new project that requires a lot of my time, because that's where all my time is tied up in right now. Why is Greedy asking, am I still in student loan debt? I never was in student loan debt. I never took out student loans. In fact, I am out of debt completely because I paid off my house. Watch Talos of Toxin, you'd know that. Imagine if Google gets so mad that they would demonetize and terminate YouTube channels bashing the Pixel products. That would be Google getting into lawsuit territory if they did, but yeah, that would suck. I bet they'd get in huge trouble for that. I would definitely be mad if they just decided we're going to start penalizing channels that critique our products. Man, that would suck. I hope the iPhone 12 is glossy. The matte black and cloth covers for iPad makes me cringe. Matte black and cloth? What are you talking about? The iPad covers don't go on the iPhones. Sounds like you haven't used frosted glass because frosted glass looks amazing compared to the glossy back. I would take this over my iPhone XS Max every day of the week. Way less fingerprints. It's not a huge fingerprint magnet. It ages really, really well because you don't see scratches in it like you do with glass over time. Glass will accumulate little micro scratches over time. This looks just as good as day one. I love the frosted glass. Remember when Google demonetized videos mentioning the iPhone 10? I do. That happened to me. It was super annoying. It was like before the video was even done uploading, it would be demonetized. It sucked. Frosted glass is way better. Love your content and effort in managing your time for your YouTube channels, live streaming to answer our questions, and managing your new family. Well done, Drew. My new family is just my wife, but yeah. It's so slippery though. Yeah, but your grip doesn't come from the back of the phone. Your grip comes from the sides. You don't hold on to your phone like this. You hold on to it like this. The grip comes from the steel. Hmm. It's not that bad. It's not slippery enough. Like anyone I've talked to who has the frosted glass prefers it to the glossy back. The only people who don't prefer the frosted glass I've talked to are the people that don't have it. Frosted glass on the front. Don't stop. Don't go there. Do you think Apple should leave the iPhone SE, iPad Mini Air design? Should this design be the last on these devices? Is it time for them to move away from 6 to 8 year olds design? Can we in the future expect all devices with Face ID, Touch ID in the screen, even budget ones? I don't believe any rumor that claims Touch ID in the display because I've been hearing of that rumor happening since 2016. There's been patents of that, and they've never turned into anything. So I am instantly hesitant to anyone who claims, oh, this device is going to have Touch ID in the display. I'm basing it off of my future predictions. I'm basing all off of what Apple has been doing lately, which what they've been doing lately seems to be all in on Face ID. And the only reason we keep Touch ID around is because it's cheaper and easier to build. So if we want to make a device that's cheaper, like the budget iPad or like the iPad mini, sure, we'll use Touch ID on that, or the iPhone SE, which is trying to be cheap. Yeah, we can use Touch ID on devices that we're trying to save money. But anything forward thinking, any type of new design, we're going all in on Face ID. That's what it appears to be. They talked many, many times on stage about why Face ID is better than Touch ID. So it seems very, very backwards that they would go to Touch ID on the display after advocating why Face ID is so much better. And I've seen so many reports of people say, you know, Touch ID is coming to the display of the iPhone, or now it's coming to the display of the iPad, and then it doesn't happen. So I'm very, very hesitant to believe anyone who claims that. But in the future, yeah, I think the iPhone SE, you notice the things about the iPad mini, the iPad Air, and the iPhone SE, they're all older designs that used to be premium. You know, the iPad mini used to be like the flagship. That used to be like the latest, greatest in hardware. Same with the iPad Air. The iPad Air is basically like a slightly tweaked version of the iPad Pro. So my hope is that the next generation of the iPad Air is a slightly tweaked version of the current iPad Pro with Face ID, but probably no ProMotion, probably worse camera, and a weaker CPU. So in the future, I think that yeah, the main focus that Apple's been pretty consistent on in the past is our cheap devices are basically our old flagships. Our old premium devices, we recycle and update the CPUs, and that's the cheap one. So with that logic, the premium iPhones we have now, or the premium devices, the iPad Pro or the iPhone 11, those will eventually start becoming the cheaper models, and then we'll have new updated designs. So eventually, yeah, the SE, the iPad Air, iPad Mini designs, those will eventually all go away. Yeah, Louise and I want to have kids someday, but not anytime soon. We're very young. Apple invests a lot of money into designs, molds, factory lines, etc., and they use them until they can feel they've gotten their money's worth out of them. Exactly. Thank you, Scott. Thank you. I keep reading about the Tesla truck being smaller, but isn't it still huge? On stage, it looked bigger than the F-150. They didn't shrink it that much. All Elon said is that the design they're tweaking a bit right now, and it's closer. It got 3% smaller. 3% is not that much. 3% is like, I'm sure it's like a matter of inches compared to the whole size of the Cybertruck. I really want more accurate location tracking on the next AirPods, but GPS plus U1 in the case or something. That would be nice. I would appreciate that. When do you think the iPad Air and Mini will be updated? It's, there's not much evidence to suggest it right now, so I really don't know. I hope it's this year, but it doesn't seem like it at this point. I'm not hearing much about it. I don't know where you heard 13%. Elon Musk himself said it's around 3% smaller. Thank you, Pizza Man, for the bit. The Lyricuda, thank you for 100 bits. When do you think will happen to What do you think will happen to smartphone evolution once all phones are just a giant bezel-less screen? We're not that far off, honestly. We're getting to that point where it doesn't really make that big a difference. But yeah, I think you'll get a lot more of the same. You'll get more camera improvements. You'll get battery life improvements. You'll get speed improvements. It'll probably get thinner. But for the most part, yeah, I'm expecting future iPhone designs to get more and more and more stale. Um, so I am not counting on iPhone leaks to be the future of technology reporting. It's going to get bored very very quickly. But anyway, I gotta probably tweet that the new video went up because I published that way too early. But thank you guys for the donations in the Twitch Primes. I'm sorry for the lag. I don't know what caused it. I'm pretty confident it's on my ISP's end because I've done nothing differently today. I'm not uploading or doing anything that I don't normally do. So it's got to be on my Wi-Fi provider's end. And by the way, I have the best possible Wi-Fi I can. I literally cannot pay my ISP any more money. They said it was gigabit download, and I don't. I think all internet providers suck. So yeah, they're being unreliable right now. But there's nothing really I can do about it. But anyway, thank you guys for watching. I will chat with you all later. Hopefully, I get my Magic Keyboard case tomorrow. For those who didn't know, I've ordered it. It should get here either tomorrow or the next day. It's going to be one of those. I'm not sure which, but we'll see. All right, guys, take care. Bye bye.